reached the point in the project where it's time to do the infamous half-shaft conversion. And that's where we take this T-bird axle over here, and we take the joints on the tip, and we install them onto this new custom. From the Monster Miata V8 conversion manual, Martin recommends that you take your shafts to a qualified mechanic and have a mechanic do it for you. I'm sure it's probably pretty cheap to do this, but I don't know, I just kind of like to do things myself. So I'm going to tackle this. Just like every other part of this project, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never taken a CV joint apart before, but I will include all this on the video, and hopefully if someone decides to tackle it as well, it might give you an idea of what's in there and what's waiting for you before you take it apart. Yeah, so about an hour and a half into the CV half-shaft conversion process, and I'm in a little bit deeper than I wanted to be because I encountered a bit of an issue. This is a C-clip. And it is the C-clip that holds the joints onto the shaft. This is what's left of the C-clip that came out of the CV joint. And you can see where the splines actually took chunks out of the C-clip. All these little chunks that were taken out of the C-clip were pretty much left in this CV joint. And I can't leave that in there. That CV joint is going to prematurely wear. So I was forced to actually end up taking apart the CV joint completely. So this is what a CV joint looks like when the grease is all removed, okay? And you can't take this apart without taking the balls out first. That's the first thing you need to do. So usually I had used a screwdriver to kind of pry up on it, get it as high as you can. It's a lot harder when all the other bearings are in there, but you'll work a bit at it. You just got to be careful not to damage. And just kind of pry the bearing out. Oop. Caught that one. Cut it with my legs. Okay, anyway, once you've got at least almost all of them out, the way you get this out is you push it completely sideways, okay, and then you have to make sure one of these holes is aligned on both sides, side to side, and then it'll kind of just come out, okay? The way to get the centerpiece out is essentially very similar. You flip it sideways, and you get one of the pieces through the hole, and then the thing just comes right out. This is not symmetrical here. It's a little different on both sides. And this side, okay, with the thicker groove here, as opposed to the thinner one, it gets bigger as it goes up. And the thinner piece here, it's thicker on this side than this side. So the thinner and thicker groove is what you see when you look inside the cup. Okay, and I know this because I had the luxury of having another half shaft that I was able to take the boot off to look, because I didn't notice when I took it apart. So this is how it goes. And for this piece here, one side is a little bit more rounded and machined than the other side is more square. Well, I don't know if this matters, but on the new half shaft, this rounded side is also the side that's near the opening of the whole thing here. So we'll go in just like so, okay, and once it's in, you just kind of, there we go, you're in, okay. So rounded off piece, thin, thick, back to our joint here, like this, like that, okay, that's there. Now all we need to do is put the bearings. This is a little tricky, and I may be doing it wrong, but I think that this is how it goes. Put the bearing, except instead of prying it, you kind of let the cup push it in, okay. You'll notice that how the outer piece moves is dependent on how the inner piece moves. So sometimes you're going and, oh, it's stuck. Well, move the outer piece and then the whole thing moves. It's all designed to work together properly. Okay. Bearing. There we go. Let's test this. Oh, it seems like it works fine to me. And that is a CV joint. And one of the things that's really cool about a project like this is that you get to learn stuff like that. It forces you to get into something like this, take it apart, learn how it works. Now I know how a CV joint works. Not too complicated after all. Okay, back at it tonight. Let's get that second half shaft converted and onto the video. That's the difference between the two half shafts, one with the new custom axle from Monster Miata and the other one stock T-Bird axle. So we could see that one's a little bit longer than the other. Number one, we get these little metal ties off. As per the Monster Miata instructions, we start with the tripod inner joint. So, first things first, throw it in the vise, push the boot off, see that some grease comes off here, okay? And the inner tripod is really easy, you just pull it off, comes off no problem, okay? So in the bottom here, I don't know if you could see it properly in the video, but there's a C-clip at the bottom, and the C-clip is just basically a stopper for the piece here not to go too far down. So take your snap ring pliers or whatever they're called, expand the C-clip, okay, and take it down. Okay, first step. That's first step. Second step, we push the tripod further down. This is easy, you could just do it with your hands. You don't need a hammer or nothing like that. Now, up here, there's a tiny, the tiny C-clip that retains the whole assembly. Lift it off here. There. There. Okay? C-clip. Make sure you don't lose this because you actually only need one of them on the new shaft, and you might break the other one taken off the CV joint. So you may need to use this last one. You may still need a little bit of persuasion here. Make sure that you hold these little guys here in if you ever tap on this, because it was difficult to see over here, but it's really just a bearing with millions of little pins in here, okay? And if you tap on this too hard, this piece will come flying off, and then all those pins will just fall off, and then you've got to collect the pin, put them all back on with grease so they stay there, and somehow press on this piece without them flying all over the place. Yeah, ask me how I know. So now that this is done, we can simply slide off both boots. Okay. So a little trick that Martin tells you to do is to take the whole axle now and put the inside piece into a pipe, 1.5 inch, make sure that it fits nice and neatly, okay? And just pound on the ground. It may take you a couple of really hard blows before it comes off. Now that I got the CV joint off, I'm going to start working on the new shaft and insert that little retainer clip onto the end of the shaft here. one end of the shaft is made to use the bigger C-clip. The other end is used to use the smaller retainer clip here. I did take the time to clean out the inside of this joint as well and repack it. I don't know if it's necessary. I felt like some debris got in there while I was messing around with it, so I thought it'd be best to repack it. So we're gonna make sure that the splines are properly aligned and a little bit in. Okay. The C-clip in. Yeah. There we go. Okay. We don't have to pound on the C-clip. Just a little push here with the screwdriver, and then you'll feel it go over. Once it's over, I'll take a hammer. Just hammer on the end here. Something to note here is that the original shaft actually had a groove at the bottom here near the joint, and a big thick C-clip that was there to hold the joint from going further onto the shaft as the splines kept going further. But on Martin's shaft, the splines stop right at the right spot to stop the joint, so you don't need that stopper. You only use the little retainer clip at the tip, and that's it. It's looking good to me. Okay. So now I'm going to put the new boots on, and I'm going to blow some air in them, make sure they're very, very clean. Another thing to note here is that I went to the auto parts store and I bought actual CV grease to repack these. Okay, so you might be able to get away with some regular grease, but always best to use the right stuff. Put the boots on. Okay, so I got the other end of the vise here, and I made sure that this tripod bearing was kept very clean, with absolutely no debris or metal filings or anything like that. Make sure everything is clean. Okay, so beveled end first. Come on, you can do it. It's very easy to push these guys off. Make sure you don't, because then it's a pain in the butt to pull those needles back in there. The last few strikes I just used a small chisel, and be very careful. Okay. And now one of those bigger C-clips that we removed. Until that C-clip finally goes in. Yeah, so I decided that it would be worth it for me to go buy a little extra CV grease and repack these. So I went ahead and cleaned it all up, because the pack said that you shouldn't mix the two different types of grease together. So I used some brake cleaner and I cleaned these up really good, and then we can actually see how these needle bearings are actually made. Like I was saying earlier, when I did the other shaft, when I was pounding on this to get it in, I hid the bearings a little bit and I popped one of them off, and all these little needles fell out, and that was a bit of a pain in the butt to put back together. So anyway, there's something to be careful with. So I'm going to go ahead and repack this. Okay, now simply make sure these are pushed in. No problem. On the video it may look like I did these in an hour, but realistically I've been working on these two shafts for about a week. So the time has come to install them in the car, and I'm pretty excited to get these over with. Well, that part was easy. You can see how close this boot is over here to the shock. Okay, and this is why the 8.8 CVs don't work. You have to use the CVs from the 7.5. Anyway, so these have to be compressed all the way in order to clear the shock here. Okay, so I haven't put the clamp on yet because I wanted to get these on first. I'll probably just put a hose clamp or something here. But early in the build, I had to disconnect the rear driver's side brake line in order to remove the rear subframe. Now, that brake line needs to be bled. Check out the benefit of a small car. You don't need two people to bleed the brake line on the rear driver's side.